Hello everyone, I am Casey the Gamer, and it's time for another game review. This time we're taking a look at a game that I have been hyped for a very long time. It's time for Gravity Circuit. Gravity Circuit was developed by Domesticated Games and published by PID Games. It was released on July 13th, 2023 for PC and various consoles. I first stumbled across the Steam page for Gravity Circuit sometime last year. I had a gift card and I was looking for something to buy with it, and I saw the footage for this game, and I knew that I had to have it. Sadly, it wasn't out yet, and there was no release date. Fast forward to earlier this year, and some more trailers have come out, and a demo drops. The 2 stages available in the demo were enough to show me how much I was going to love this game. It hyped me up so much that I made a first impressions video based off the demo. The only thing still missing, though, was the release date. Well, I was scrolling through Twitter the week of the game's release, probably about 3 or 4 days beforehand, and I saw that the release date had finally been announced, July 13th. The hype was so real at this point. I started playing it pretty much as soon as it was available on release day. I got to a certain point in the game, but I didn't beat it yet. I went ahead and started a fresh file so that I could start recording footage for this review. Then the next day, I streamed it all in one sitting on my Twitch channel, and I had a blast. Then, I went back and beat the game again to get the rest of the footage, and I am beyond excited to play it some more. I love this game, and I am so very excited to talk about it. So, let's take a closer look at Gravity Circuit. There are spoilers ahead for the story of the game. Many years ago, during a digging operation, some robots discovered a mysterious structure which was called the Ark. Soon after discovering the Ark, the Virus Army attacked the city. The Virus Army is an endless wave of terrible robots. There was a group of 9 Guardians, the Guardian Corps. With the power of the circuits, they did battle with the Virus Army. The Virus Army was defeated, but in the end, only one Guardian remained. However, he was badly damaged. He was found and taken in for repairs, but no matter what they tried, the Guardian remained offline. Many years later, the Virus Army is back. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, the remaining Guardian, Kai, the Gravity Circuit, reemerges and jumps into action. Kai enters the city and saves some civilians from the virus bots. Kai battles his way through the city, destroying every virus bot that gets in his way. Kai saves a cloaked robot from the Virus Army. The robot thanks Kai for saving him, and Kai wonders where the Virus Army is coming from. The robot isn't sure, but suggests that Kai goes to Guardian Corps HQ to look for any leads. Before leaving, the robot teaches Kai a new technique to help him battle the Virus Army. The robot tells Kai that he will catch up with him later. Kai continues the battle while heading towards Guardian Corps HQ. Kai reaches the HQ and sees Cable, who is one of the Guardians thought to have been dead. Cable is threatening another robot, but Kai steps in. The two exchange some brief words, and Cable makes it clear that he and Kai are no longer on the same side. Cable decides to let the virus bots take things from here, and he teleports away. As Kai prepares to battle the virus bots, a giant tank appears and destroys them. But it's not friendly by any means, and Kai has to destroy it. Once Kai defeats the tank, the robot that Cable was threatening gets Kai to follow him inside the Guardian Corps HQ. The robot is thankful for Kai's help and is happy to see him up and about. Kai asks who the robot is, and he introduces himself as Colonel, the commander of what's left of the Guardian Corps. Kai then questions why Cable was after Colonel. Colonel says that he wishes he knew, and explains that after the first battle with the virus army, the only Guardian that they recovered was Kai. The others were assumed to have gone offline. Kai wants to know how long it's been since the first battle with the virus army, and Colonel says that it's been decades. Colonel is curious if Kai's memory is still intact, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Colonel was hoping Kai would be able to shed some light on the situation, but they will just have to do some digging themselves. Colonel tells Kai to go ahead and explore the base, and to meet him at Mission Command later. Kai explores the HQ and meets some of the other bots there. He meets Alf, who is in charge of the data archive. He asks if Kai will bring him any data chips that he finds. Kai also meets the nurse. She is happy to see him in good health and requests that he help out any injured robots he comes across. Kai agrees to help both of them. After that, Kai goes to speak with Colonel. Virus Army activity is being picked up all over the place. Several key areas are being targeted, which is crippling their resources. The city won't last long if this keeps up. Colonel mentions that when the Virus Army originally appeared, they were chaotic and unorganized, but this time, they are incredibly well coordinated. Suddenly, the cloaked robot that Kai saved earlier appears and says it's because the Virus Army is following the commands of the rebelling circuits. Colonel asks the robot who he is, and he says his name is Nega. Colonel asks Nega to explain what he was talking about. Nega believes that the circuits are going to take over the city or destroy it entirely, whichever happens first. Colonel claims that they are doomed. Nega asks Kai what he will do, and Kai declares that he will go after the rebel circuits. Nega asks Kai if he has what it takes. Kai says he isn't sure, but he has to try. Nega tells Kai that he can teach him new skills to aid him in his journey and to seek him out whenever he's ready to learn. Colonel is very thankful for Kai deciding to aid them. Colonel then says that their analysts have finished their research and are picking up multiple circuit signatures, and there are 8 rebel circuits to contend with. Kai takes off after the first circuit and manages to defeat it after a crazy fight. Kai collects the circuit and transports it back to the base. Colonel tells one of the robots in the command room to store it in the vault. Kai teleports back himself and meets another bot named Pat. Pat seems to be a big fan of Kai and decides to be his chronicler and take note of the challenges Kai completes. Kai continues going after the rebel circuits and defeating them. After the 4th is defeated, before Kai teleports back to base, something seems to be going wrong with Colonel. Pat asks him if he's okay, and Colonel snaps out of it, saying that he should be fine. Kai takes down another 2 circuits, and Colonel seems to be getting worse. Colonel says something about a commander and the circuits. Pat wonders if he should get the medic, but once again Colonel says he's fine, just shaken by recent events. Colonel tells Pat to keep this between the 2 of them, but Pat says that it could be serious. Colonel questions whether or not Pat's disobeying an order. Pat says no and agrees to keep this between the 2 of them. Kai defeats the final 2 rebel circuits. Once the final circuit is transported back to base, The problem with Colonel gets worse as a crest of some sort and an eye appear on his forehead. Colonel says he will obey. Nega enters the room and Colonel seems to power up, and then the screen fades to black while sounds of a struggle can be heard. It then cuts to the Ark powering on. Kai returns to the base and sees the damage and a very worried Pat. Kai asks what happened while he was gone. Pat explains that Colonel took the circuits. They tried to stop him, but they were no match for him. Colonel teleported away and Nega went after him. Kai asks where they went, and Pat says they went to the Ark. Kai asks what the Ark is, and Pat explains that it's a structure that they found before the virus army first attacked. Kai says that he remembers now. The rebel circuits have been nothing but a distraction. The Ark is where the virus army is coming from. They don't know what Colonel is planning or why he'd go to the Ark, but Kai is going after him. Pat explains that there is too much interference from the virus army, so Kai can't be teleported directly to the Ark. Kai says that's fine, he'll just fight his way there, which is exactly what he does. Kai finally makes it inside the Ark, and the fight continues. Kai eventually catches up to Nega. Nega asks Kai how that body is treating him. Kai asks what Nega means. Nega says that having that amazing power and abilities must feel amazing, but despite that, Kai's memory banks are empty. He continues saying it must be a shame having so much potential, but not knowing where it comes from or how it works. Kai questions what Nega's point is. Nega says that he'll show Kai and tell him the truth. Nega removes his cloak, revealing a damaged body that bears a resemblance to Kai's body. Kai wants to know who Nega really is, what he is. Nega claims to be the original gravity circuit. More accurately, one of its previous hosts. Nega explains that the previous hosts have met unfortunate ends. He continues, saying that the circuit on Kai's forehead is not like the others. The other circuits are passive once they lose their host. The gravity circuit, however, is not. It has desires, and it actively tries to find new host bodies, so someone is always wielding it. It accomplishes this by using the power of gravity. It can attract the necessary pieces for a host. Loose parts, various scrap, parts of the enemy. Sometimes it might claim the body of a nearby bot entirely. The game cuts to a flashback scene. At the end of the first virus army conflict, Nega's body was very badly damaged, but instead of being destroyed, he just ran out of juice to keep going. Without any power to send the copy command, the circuit thought Nega was already gone. Without the copy command, the circuit doesn't carry any memories of the previous host. The gravity circuit can then be seen detaching from Nega's body and flying into Kai, transforming him into the new gravity circuit. Kai takes off and Colonel finds Nega's damaged body. So Nega was the one who broke out of the healing tank at the base at the start of the game, not Kai. Turns out Kai was just an ordinary bot who showed up at the right time. At least that's what Nega would like to think. He doesn't know how many bodies the circuit has been through, or what Kai was doing before the virus army showed up. Kai says that he doesn't know, and that by the time he knew what was happening, he was already fighting the virus army. Nega then says it must have been his signal that reawakened both of them, and Kai rightfully asks who Nega is talking about. Dude's being all cryptic at a time like this? Come on! Nega explains that there is a great enemy lurking ahead, the very source of the virus army. His signal has the power to control the army in its entirety. Thankfully, the same signal awakens the circuits. Nega says as the original gravity circuit, it's up to him to make sure that Kai is up to the task of fighting this enemy. Kai and Nega engage in an epic battle. The two trade blows back and forth, and just when it seems like Kai has won, Nega gets a final surge of power, and the battle continues. Kai finally emerges victorious. Nega is pleased by this and thinks that Kai is ready to face the powerful enemy. Nega says he'll catch up with Kai later as Kai heads back to base briefly. Kai returns to the Ark and fights his way further inside. He eventually reaches Colonel. Colonel jumps down a shaft and a gate locks behind him, leaving Kai to fight the Circuit Crystal. The Circuit Crystal takes on the powers of the various circuits and even forces Kai to battle them all again via a simulation. Kai manages to defeat them and the Circuit Crystal once and for all. Kai heads further in and comes to another locked gate. Nega shows up and tells Kai that the target is just beyond the security gates. Nega helps Kai unlock the gates. Kai finally reaches the final area and confronts Colonel. Colonel tells Kai that they have been waiting for him. Suddenly, the Ark begins to float. The eye of something in the background lights up and says that it is time to go. A giant head with several wires attached to it appears. Kai questions where they're going and what Commander is planning to do with the Ark. Commander talks about how Kai forgot their mission and all that kind of stuff. Kai doesn't know what mission he's talking about and asks who the big head is. He introduces himself as Commander Circuit, the 10th circuit of the Ark. Each Ark is given 10 circuits to govern over the mission given to them by their masters. Apparently, Commander Circuit is salty about the other circuits deciding to ditch the mission and bury Commander Circuit there with the Ark, which is a little fair. Commander Circuit explains that they traveled together through space for many millennia, claiming many planets and shaping them to suit the needs of their masters. But once they arrived on the current planet, the other circuits changed. Commander Circuit claims that the others wanted to be worshipped by the low-level bots, even though they are nothing but disposable workers, and that the Ark makes dozens of them automatically when they land. Commander Circuit continues to complain for a bit. He eventually says that the common bots were modified to suppress his powers, and it took him a while to hack and control Colonel. Commander says that once the Ark is in orbit, they can put the whole thing behind them. The normal bots will deactivate once they are gone. Commander explains that the Ark, which is his body apparently, maintains a planet-wide signal, and without it, the common bots go into sleep mode to wait for the masters to arrive, which is why the circuits decided to bury Commander Circuit. But they forgot to turn off his subsystems, which allowed him to create the virus army. Eventually, Commander Circuit had gathered all of the circuits except for Gravity Circuit because of its abilities. Eventually, the virus army was defeated and Commander Circuit had to rebuild the army, this time brainwashing the other circuits as well. Even though they didn't find Kai and bring him to the Ark like the Commander wanted, using Colonel ended up working out just fine. The Ark can't leave a planet unless all of the circuits are on board. The Ark continues to move, but Kai isn't going to stand by and do nothing. Commander decides to use Colonel to fight Kai while he plots a course out of the system. Colonel is trying to fight the programming, but ultimately has no choice and attacks Kai. Kai eventually defeats Colonel, and Colonel thanks Kai for stopping him. Kai tells Colonel to save his energy and they'll get him fixed, but Colonel says it's already too late for that and to please stop the commander. Colonel then explodes and dies. Commander compliments Kai on his impressive abilities. Kai says he will never forgive Commander. The intense fight with Commander Circuit begins. Despite Commander Circuit doing whatever he can to stop Kai, it isn't enough, and the Gravity Circuit defeats the Commander Circuit. Commander Circuit can't believe that he lost. Then he tries to make everyone feel bad for him. He says that all he wanted was to fly through space once again. With his mind and his body stuck to the Ark, stargazing was all that he had. He then hopes his masters will forgive him before he explodes. His circuit and all of the others appear in the room and float in the air. Nega enters the room and tells Kai that everything that Commander Circuit said about them was true. They had grown tired of shaping planets to please their masters. He explains that he doesn't know who they are or if they're even still out there. Nega feels bad about all the bots they left on the other planets. They were all unique with their own hopes and dreams. Leaving them behind was incredibly cruel. To Nega, it was like they betrayed the bots' trust time and time again. Nega says they tried to take some of them aboard the Ark once, but their bodies couldn't handle hyper light speed travel. Circuits, however, can be given new bodies, as long as the circuit remains intact. But once a common bot is gone, they're gone for good. Nega and the others were tired of the mission and decided to stay. It was the other circuits who decided to bury Commander Circuit there. It was already done before Nega could say anything. Nega was ashamed and scared to face him because he considered Commander Circuit a friend. He wonders if things could have turned out differently if he had done something. Kai asks what they should do now. Nega explains that someone is going to have to take Commander Circuit's place so that the other bots can continue to function. Nega decides to be the one to take Commander Circuit's place as a punishment for what he's done. Kai asks about the Gravity Circuit, saying it rightfully belongs to Nega. Nega says that despite Kai starting out as a common bot, he's earned it. The Gravity Circuit is his. Nega tells Kai to get out of there. The others are waiting for their hero's safe return. Kai leaves the Ark as Nega begins to merge with the Commander Circuit. The Ark returns to the ground and powers back down as Kai watches from the cliffside. Pat and the others show up to congratulate Kai on his victory over the virus army. Kai thinks to himself. He wonders if he should tell them everything about the Masters, the circuits, the mission that Commander spoke of, his true identity, or what happened to Colonel. Kai tells Pat to listen and begins to mention the truth about who he is, and then he just looks up to the night sky and the credits roll. When I first played the demo, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect from the story, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. The characters were great fun, the twist in the story was unexpected, and it worked really well. I really would love a sequel to this game. Not sure what the story would be in that one. Maybe having to fight the Masters that they talked about? That would be cool. The gameplay in Gravity Circuit is incredible. It is a buttery smooth, Mega Man-inspired 2D action platformer. Everything in this game feels amazing. I was super impressed with how it felt in the demo, and it feels even better in the full release. You play as Kai, the titular Gravity Circuit. Kai will use his fists and his legs to deal damage to the virus army robots in the game. and that's one of my favorite things about Gravity Circuit. I've never played a Mega Man style game where you use punches and kicks as your main form of attacking. It's great. In addition to the standard attacks, Kai can also learn burst techniques. These are really powerful, flashy moves that do extra damage or have another really cool effect to help you get through the stage. Nega teaches you the default burst technique on the first stage of the game, which is just like a super punch. You can then learn other burst techniques from Nega later on. Other burst techniques include an uppercut, a giant laser, a pile driver, there's one that will heal you, or one that creates a platform for you to use, and several other really awesome moves and abilities. You can have 4 equipped at one time, but you're able to swap them out whenever you want, either at the base or mid-stage. Each burst technique will deplete 1 bar of the burst gauge. So the combat is super fun, but so is the movement. Kai is able to run normally, but also run at super speed. I almost never let the run button go while playing through it. The running and jumping is very nice and makes the platforming in the game just feel great. Kai also has a slide that lets him get through narrow passageways. Both the combat and the movement benefit from the grappling hook. You can use the grappling hook to swing across large gaps and to reach things that you can't reach normally. Used in combat, it can be used as a long-range weapon, and it can also be used to grab defeated enemies so you can throw them at other enemies, which is honestly one of the best things ever. You can gain new abilities by obtaining booster chips. You can purchase new chips from the nurse in the HQ. The nurse gives you one for free when you first run into her, the Energy Absorber, which gives you burst energy for attacking and overkilling enemies. In order to get new chips from her, you have to give her a combination of bits, which is the currency of the game, and rescue points. There are 8 injured robots in each of the 8 boss stages. You get rescue points for rescuing the injured robots. This allows you to get more booster chips, which include things like a double jump, a chip that prevents fatal damage if your health is above 1 unit, damage reduction, increased attack speed, or making you invincible during a slide, just to name a few. I always had the double jump equipped once I got it. The double jump combined with the super fast running and the grappling hook makes for an incredibly fast-paced and fun time. The character Alf keeps track of enemies in the database. You can obtain data chips from characters and defeated enemies, and then pay a certain amount of bits to unlock that particular data entry. Definitely a nice touch. And the character Pat is your chronicler. He keeps track of all of the challenges you complete. The challenges are just the achievements you unlock by doing certain things. In addition to the injured robots that you can find throughout the stages, there are some upgrades that you can find as well. There are health upgrades and burst bar upgrades. There are 4 of each. 4 stages have health upgrades, and the other 4 have the burst bar upgrades. Finding the robots and the upgrades is pretty fun and not too hard overall. There's a couple that you really have to go out of your way to find, or that are a little bit more difficult, but once you get to know the stages, it's a breeze to collect them. There was one upgrade that I couldn't figure out how to get at first. It was the final burst bar upgrade that I needed. It was located in Cypher Circuit stage. I missed a spot that I was supposed to drop down into and found the area that you're supposed to come out of after getting the upgrade, and I couldn't figure out how to get it. I ended up using the burst technique that makes a platform, and I used that to slide under the gap. I did eventually figure out the right way to go, but I love that the game let me do it the wrong way or a different way. There are 64 injured robots in total. 2 of them are dog robots, so definitely rescue those 2 at all costs. A detail that I love is that once you start rescuing the robots, some of them will start hanging around the base, including the dogs. Here comes my only negative thing about this game. You can't pet the dogs. I need a patch for that as soon as possible, please. Gravity Circuit features 12 incredibly fun, action-packed stages. There's the intro stage, the 8 Rebel Circuit stages, and the 3 final stages in the arc. Each of the boss stages has their own gimmick, which reflects the theme of the boss, and the game pulls each one of them off incredibly well. And then, the final stages of the game brings elements of all of the stages together and combines them. And honestly, they're some of my favorite stages in the game. It's so cool seeing all of the callbacks in the final stages. I'd say probably my favorite regular stage is the ore mines, where you fight Crash, the brake circuit. It's just a really well-rounded and fun stage. Plus, it has a really cool ride armor for you to use with some awesome drill arms. So regarding the bosses, when I played the demo, I figured that once I beat them, I would gain new powers from them like in Mega Man, and one of the other bosses would be weak to it. Well, surprisingly, that's not the case. However, when you do beat a boss, Nega gets new burst techniques, and some of them are like some of the boss abilities. But to my knowledge, the bosses don't have a specific weakness. So honestly, you can go through the boss stages in any order without having to worry about a weakness order. The bosses include the Wrecker Tank, which you fight on the intro stage, the Rebel Circuits, which include Ray, the Optic Circuit, Trace, the Patch Circuit, Blade, the Cooler Circuit, Cable, the Power Circuit, Bit, the Shift Circuit, Medley, the Wave Circuit, Crash, the Brake Circuit, and Hash, the Cipher Circuit. Once they're dealt with, you move on to the final stages of the game. On the first of the final stages, you fight Nega, the original Gravity Circuit. He makes you fight him to make sure you're ready for the challenge ahead. On the second one, you have to fight the Circuit Crystal, which acts as the boss rush. The crystal will take on abilities of a certain circuit, and then it will make you fight a weaker version of the actual circuit's boss fight with a simulation. This fight can be a little tough, but luckily for every 2 circuits you defeat, you get a checkpoint. So if you die, you won't have to refight the ones you've beaten. I thought it was a neat way to do a boss rush instead of the robots just being rebuilt or something like that. And on the final stage, you have to battle a mind-controlled colonel before dealing with the final boss, the Commander Circuit. Commander Circuit can be a bit of a doozy if you're unprepared. He has 3 health bars and a wide variety of attacks. But once you get used to all of his different attacks, he'll go down in no time. If you die though, you have to fight Colonel again as well. So no nice checkpoints on this fight. It's no biggie though. Once Commander Circuit has been defeated, you have beaten the game. Upon beating the game, you unlock New Game Plus and Circuit Mode. New Game Plus has you start the game over, but you keep all of your upgrades. On Circuit Mode, you can convert health into burst energy. Seems like something interesting to try out eventually. I haven't tried hard mode yet, but on normal mode, the difficulty feels just right. There are some challenging moments, but nothing too bad. and the stages tend to have plenty of checkpoints. And you can even pay bits at the checkpoints to refill your health and your burst bar. The cost does go up the more you use it though. The smooth combat and movement and fun platforming combined with the fantastic boss designs and fights make this an amazing game. It all just works so well together. Gravity Circuit's gameplay is perfect. Except for not being allowed to pet the dogs. I mean, come on, guys. Gravity Circuit features some of the most beautiful pixel art graphics I have ever seen. The characters, the enemies, the bosses, and the backgrounds are all gorgeous. The designs in general are just top-notch. Everything looks amazing. The sound effects are also fantastic. Everything hits just right. No complaints at all. And the soundtrack is absolute perfection. Every song in the game is wonderful. I've been listening to it non-stop while writing this review. And while playing the game, they're such a joy to listen to while kicking virus bot butt. And that was Gravity Circuit, and it was amazing. If you saw my first impressions video, you know that I was beyond hyped for this game. And it lived up to the hype and then some. The story's really good, and the gameplay is so incredible and just so much fun. One of the best platformers I have ever had the pleasure of playing. Everything this game has to offer will keep me coming back for more and more. I sincerely hope we get a sequel or just more games from this developer. As of right now, I can say without a doubt that Gravity Circuit is my game of the year for 2023. I definitely recommend picking it up and playing it. Thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you want to see more of me, you can catch me streaming all kinds of stuff over on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/CaseyTheGamer91. And I also have a Patreon where you can get perks like early video access and some other pretty cool stuff. And that is patreon.com/CaseyTheGamer91. You can find both of those links and all of my other links in the description below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to catch you next time. Peace out.